Welcome to Dolphin Dive Daily, your go-to spot for everything Miami Dolphins. If you bleed aqua and orange, hit that subscribe button and join the pod. Terron Armstead, a 5-time Pro Bowl offensive tackle, stunned the NFL world earlier this year when he suddenly announced his retirement. For fans who had followed his career closely, the news was bittersweet. Armstead was not only a cornerstone on the offensive line for both the New Orleans Saints and the Miami Dolphins, but also a symbol of resilience and grit. He had just wrapped up one of his healthiest seasons yet, appearing in 15 games for the Dolphins and maintaining a level of dominance that most players dream of reaching. Yet, behind the scenes, a different narrative was unfolding. One not filled with glory and accolades, but with unbearable pain, quiet suffering, and a body that could no longer withstand the rigors of the sport. And this week, Armstead peeled back the curtain to share the agonizing truth behind his farewell to football. Appearing on the Nightcap podcast with Shannon Sharpe and Chad Johnson, Terron spoke with a level of vulnerability rarely seen in the NFL. It was Chad Ocho Cinco Johnson who asked the pivotal question, when did you know it was time? The room went quiet as Armstead began recounting what sounded less like a sports story and more like a survival tale. I didn't see a practice field at all, he began, but it wasn't a matter of rest or strategy. It was because he physically could not walk. Each Sunday, he'd go to battle for his team, only to spend the next few days unable to move without assistance. By Wednesday or Thursday, he was beginning to hobble again, just in time to prepare for the next brutal clash. It wasn't just tough. It was unsustainable. I couldn't put any pressure on my knee, he said. I was only able to play under the pain meds. The shocking part wasn't just the pain, it was the illusion. Fans, coaches, even analysts saw Armstead as a warrior. He was a Pro Bowler in 2022 and 2023, an anchor for Tua Tagovailoa's blindside, and a consistent force despite all odds. On game days, he looked unstoppable, but as he revealed, the NFL's most elite performers often pay a price fans never see. Every Sunday highlight was followed by a week of silence, painkillers, and physical deterioration. The fact that he played 15 games in 2024 felt like a triumph. Yet in reality, it was the product of pure willpower, medical intervention, and ultimately, the decision to sacrifice his long-term health for short-term glory. He described his weekly routine like someone describing a painful ritual. Necessary, perhaps, but deeply damaging. The moment of realization didn't come from a doctor's diagnosis or a locker room conversation. It came from within when he saw that even the most basic human function, like walking, had become a luxury. Terron wasn't just injured, he was broken in places no MRI could show. His quote, "I can't keep doing that to myself," echoed with a finality that spoke volumes. This wasn't a man giving up. This was a man finally choosing himself over the sport he loved. And when someone like Armstead, who has battled through every conceivable physical challenge, says it's over, you better believe he means it. He wasn't retiring because he couldn't compete. He was retiring because he couldn't survive another season of pretending to be okay. Throughout his career, Armstead was never one to complain. In fact, he once joked that he might be the most injured player in NFL history, wearing that label like a badge of honor. From knee issues to shoulder pain and everything in between, his injury history reads like a medical journal. Yet through it all, he kept showing up. That's what made his story so compelling. He didn't just endure pain, he conquered it. He made it look invisible. And in doing so, he masked just how severe things had become. Even as fans and commentators praised his resilience, the cost of that resilience was eating away at him. He wasn't just playing hurt, he was living hurt. What's truly heartbreaking is how normalized this kind of suffering has become in the NFL. Players like Armstead are hailed as warriors, gladiators who strap on pads and helmets and go to war each week. But beneath those helmets are real people, fathers, husbands, sons, whose bodies are breaking down long before the rest of the world sees it. Armstead's story is a wake-up call, a brutal reminder that even the best, even the strongest have limits. He gave everything to the game, his strength, his mobility, his comfort, and now he's finally reclaiming what little health he has left. For fans who watched him dominate on Sundays, it's sobering to think about the Mondays that followed, filled with ice baths, painkillers, and the quiet dread of doing it all over again. And let's not overlook how rare it is for a player to go out on top. Most careers end with a whimper, a fade into obscurity, but Armstead, he was still among the elite. That's what made his decision so powerful. He wasn't pushed out. He walked away, albeit with great difficulty on his own terms. And that's not just brave, it's revolutionary in a league that often rewards sacrifice at any cost. His retirement wasn't about age or performance. It was about sanity, dignity, and quality of life. I didn't want to wake up 10 years from now unable to play with my kids, he said. That statement alone speaks volumes. Football gave him everything, but it also took a lot. And now he's drawing the line. It's not just Armstead's story. It's a broader commentary on the physical toll of the NFL. How many other players are suffering in silence, playing through unbearable pain just to meet expectations? How many are delaying retirement, risking permanent damage, all for another shot at glory? Armstead's honesty may pave the way for others to come forward, to prioritize health over heroics. His story adds another layer to the growing conversation about player safety, mental health, and life after football. As much as we celebrate what happens between the lines, we can't keep ignoring what happens when the lights go off. If anything, Terran's farewell is a call for empathy, a reminder that these athletes are more than just performers. So, as the NFL prepares for another season, Terran Armstead will be watching from the sidelines, not with regret, but with relief. He leaves behind a legacy not just of skill and accolades, but of courage. He dared to do what many players fear, to say enough before it was too late. And in doing so, he may have added the most important chapter to his storied career. It's not just about protecting the quarterback anymore. It's about protecting yourself. Terran Armstead is no longer an active NFL player, but his story will resonate long after the final whistle. And maybe, just maybe, it will inspire a new generation of players to listen to their bodies, trust their instincts, and walk away with their heads held high. Still with us? Then show some love. Hit that like button and let us know in the comments. What's your take on the Fins this week? Whispers are swirling out of Miami, and if they're even half true, we might be on the verge of a seismic shakeup in the Dolphins locker room. According to sources close to the team, or at least those with ears pressed to the walls of the training facility, head coach Mike McDANIEL may have finally lost his patience with one of his most dynamic playmakers, wide receiver JAYLEN WADDLE. Now, before Dolphins fans start sharpening pitchforks or jumping to conclusions, let's make it clear, nothing has been confirmed officially, but the word behind the scenes is that McDANIEL let out a comment no one expected, calling WADDLE undisciplined. Yeah, you heard that right. The same coach who's known for his cool, analytical demeanor may have just dropped a verbal bombshell on one of the team's rising stars. If this is true, it marks a sharp departure from the public image we've come to know of Mike McDANIEL. Since arriving in Miami, McDANIEL has been the epitome of a player's coach. Chill, cerebral, creative. He's praised for his innovative offense and his ability to connect with younger players. So for him to call out a player publicly or even behind closed doors in such harsh terms, it would mean there's been some serious tension brewing beneath the surface. The buzz started earlier this week when several beat reporters noticed that McDANIEL seemed uncharacteristically tense during post-practice interviews. When asked about Waddle's role in the offense this season, he gave a curt, almost dismissive answer. That was the first crack. Then, an anonymous source told a local radio show that the coach recently told staff, Waddle has all the talent in the world, but he doesn't know how to be disciplined. Let's unpack that for a second. JAYLEN WADDLE, since entering the HA League in 2021, has been electric. Blazing speed, precise route running, and chemistry with Tua Tagovailoa that's off the charts. He broke rookie records and followed that up with back-to-back solid seasons. But while he's made jaw-dropping plays, insiders have pointed to missed assignments, dropped passes in clutch moments, and an occasional lack of focus as potential concerns. And now it sounds like those concerns might be boiling over in the coach's office. Discipline, in football terms, isn't just about showing up on time or avoiding penalties. It's about mental sharpness, consistency, and executing your role with precision every down, every game. If McDANIEL really feels like Waddle is lacking that, it changes everything. What makes this rumor even juicier is the timing. Training camp is approaching, and this is when chemistry and trust are solidified. You can't afford to have friction between your head coach and a star receiver. The Dolphins are already navigating a high-pressure situation with a roster built to win now. Tyreek Hill isn't getting younger. Tua still needs to prove he can stay healthy for a full season. The window to contend is narrow. So if McDANIEL is sending a message, publicly or privately, it's probably because he wants to light a fire under Waddle before the season kicks off. But the big question is, will it work or will it backfire? From what we've seen of Jaylen Waddle, he's not the type to lash out or stir drama. He's been humble, team first, and committed, but even the best athletes can struggle under the weight of expectations. Maybe McDaniel's words were more of a challenge than a criticism. Maybe he sees Waddle's potential not just as a number 2 receiver, but as a legitimate alpha, someone who could dominate the league if he sharpened the mental side of his game. In that context, calling him undisciplined isn't a dismissal. It's a wake-up call. Still, it's a risky move, because once something like this leaks, you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. The media runs with it, fans speculate, and locker room dynamics shift. Some insiders are already drawing parallels to other coach-star player clashes in the past. Think McCarthy and Rodgers, Arians and Brady, even Belichick and Moss. Sometimes that tension produces greatness. Other times, it ends in disaster. The Dolphins, as talented as they are, can't afford internal drama. And let's not forget Waddle is due for a contract extension soon. If he feels underappreciated or disrespected, that negotiation could get very complicated. Could this be McDaniel's way of testing Waddle's mental toughness before backing up the Brinks truck? Or is it a genuine sign that their relationship is fraying at the edges? There's also another angle here, one that hasn't been talked about much. What if this isn't just about Waddle the player, but Waddle the leader? With veterans like Hill commanding attention, maybe McDaniel wants Waddle to step into more of a leadership role. And leadership requires discipline. Maybe he's not satisfied with Waddle just being talented. He wants him to be accountable, vocal, a standard bearer for the younger guys in the locker room. That would explain the tough love approach. And if that's the case, the so-called criticism might actually be a weird kind of compliment, a challenge wrapped in frustration. Either way, something has shifted in Miami. Whether it's a temporary blip or the start of a deeper rift, we'll know soon enough. Waddle's response on the field and off it will speak volumes. Does he rise to the occasion and prove McDaniel wrong or right? Or does this spark a string of miscommunications that lingers into the season? We've seen it before, Star. Players and young coaches trying to find common ground. But if McDaniel's alleged comments are real and he truly believes Waddle lacks discipline, then this season just got a lot more complicated. Because talent can win you games, but discipline wins championships. So Dolphins fans, buckle up. This could be nothing. A whisper that vanishes with the next highlight reel in training camp. Or it could be the first sign of something much bigger, a philosophical clash, a shift in team culture, or even a power struggle between one of the league's brightest young coaches and one of his fastest rising stars. Whatever the truth is, it's clear the honeymoon phase in Miami might be over. And from here on out, every route Waddle runs, and every word McDaniel speaks will be under the microscope. Because in the NFL, it's not just about what happens on Sundays. It's about what's said behind closed doors, in hushed tones, and leaked in whispers. And if the rumor is true that Mike McDaniel called Jaylen Waddle undisciplined, then those whispers just became shouts. That's a wrap for today's dive. If you're loving the content, share it with a fellow Dolphins fan, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a splash. Fins up.